Hi, welcome back to my garden. I wanted to give you a little bit of an early spring tour. There's a lot of cool things going on right now, and I wanted to start an Artemis's garden. So it's named for our dog Artemis, who loved the sunshine and she loved sunbathing. So we picked the sunniest corner of the garden to make her garden. It's all kind of hot colors, so like yellows, oranges, reds. There is a few odd like little purples and stuff here and there. And then for a backdrop for those blooms, we're doing kind of like yellow, blue, and kind of burgundy plum foliage. So anyway, there's a whole like thing happening here. But to begin with, right now, it's like mostly the tulips, which are Disneyland Paris, and the daffodils, which are Congress, which have like the orange center. Anyway, so I thought I'd just like walk you around a little bit, show you what's going on here. So I'm starting here kind of right by our gate and under our big monkey puzzle tree. I recently tried propagating some of the monkey puzzles, so I'll let you know how that goes. So far the cuttings are still green, so that's good. And then right along the driveway here, I'm starting kind of a hedge of flowering quinces. So they're still really small. These were all just, there were 3 of them. And it was just like a gallon pot. And then further behind, this is a little bit of a wet spot. So I have Carya japonica, which is sometimes called Japanese rose, but it has like pretty green stems in winter, which show up nicely against the fence. And then recently I got this, I can't remember if it was like midwinter fire or something like that. It's a dogwood where the stems go kind of coral in winter. There's also some black-eyed Susans that I did from seed last year. They didn't actually bloomed for me last year, but I have a feeling that they'll bloom well this year. And then all the tulips. This area has a bunch of other stuff too. There's like heleniums, there's some California poppies. In the background you can see the Oregon grape. That's one of our native ones, Mahonia aquifolium. But it has like beautiful, just like, I don't know, it's like overflowing with those little yellow flowers. And the hummingbirds like them, and the bees seem pretty happy about them. This is eventually going to be like the entrance to Artemis's garden. These are 2 Forever Goldie arborvitae trees. So the plan is to kind of eventually start to shape them, maybe into cones or something taller. I basically carried up a bunch of wood from the woods and rocks that I found around the property. This part was based around Gandalf's staff. I just like love these tulips so much. I want to get even more of them. And these kinds are, I think they're Fusteriana tulips, and they seem to perennialize pretty well for us. We have some of the kind of white-green ones and then some of the more pink ones, and they seem to just come back. I'm excited about this Japanese maple over here. I don't know if it's going to show up in the camera. It's called Red Sentinel, Twombly's Red Sentinel. Anyway, it grows like tall and thin, and it has like really nice color leaves, and it does well in full sun. And then along here, there's like the ditch. So I've planted some like moisture-loving things along here. There's also a bunch of lilies that are gonna come up, some dogwood. This is a tree peony, Lutea. It has like yellow flowers. It's only in its 2nd year, so I may have to wait a while before it's like anything tree-like. I got this azalea this year, which is why it's like already blooming, but this one blooms twice in the season, so that should be pretty cool. And then more of the tulips. This is a redbud tree, and it's the one with like purple leaves. And underneath it, I have some like Jacob Klein, bee balm, which is bright red. There's some night rider lilies, more Rudbeckia, Yeah, a bunch of stuff that I grew from seed. And the lilies I divided, so that's awesome seeing so many of them jump up. I'll try to pan slowly. And on this side, I have the 3 pines. So closest to me here in front is our native white pine. And then behind it, I think it's a Pinus sylvestris. I can check, I can see the labels like still there. It's a couple of years old, but it's a very slow grower, and it goes like bright gold in winter and then kind of like a bluey gray in the summertime. And then this is like a big like mugo pine, which I want to get in and prune a little bit. I want to make it a little shorter and try to work on making it like denser. So we'll see how that goes. And then a few more things here. This is California wax myrtle, which is like a native evergreen, broadleaf evergreen, which is always kind of exciting to have. A nice screening plant apparently, so hopefully I won't have to wait too long for that. It seems pretty fast growing. And just across, you can see the star magnolia. There's kind of a bunch of stuff going on this side. So there's the star magnolia, and then I've started planting this little area under here. There's a bunch of heleniums, and yeah, just like ferns, some bulbs. I also left some dahlias in the ground here, so I'm curious if they actually come back. In the background, you might be able to see the hammock under the apple tree. And then we have this area, which I haven't showed too much. It's very much a work in progress, but there's like a little bit of a pond. I have some Japanese irises that I just put in it yesterday. And then underneath, I don't actually know what this is. It feels like it might be some kind of a perennial wallflower. It smells sweet. It comes back every year, and it's just like this carpet of white, and I love it with the magnolia and then some of the hyacinths in the background too. This spot here on the left is kind of a pretty hot garden, so things go over sooner than elsewhere. So the hyacinths and the daffodils are pretty much done, but the forget-me-nots are back with a vengeance. And so these are the other Fusteriana tulips. So these ones are kind of like, I don't know, white-green variegated, but I just like love the color. And down here we have our perennial snapdragons that just like never go away, but they're pretty sweet, so no complaints. This bed is still a work in progress. We have some big plans for it to turn it into like a succulent and cactus bed that we can plant year round. So I've been collecting just like pretty rocks that I find around the property to use for that. And then just past, we have our potatoes. We planted these yesterday as well. And we have 3 different types. So we did like early, mid, and late. We have a few family visits happening this summer, so we wanted to be organized and have food ready for when people come. And then this is a cold frame that I put together this year. It's not completely finished. There's Cosmo. I don't know if you can see him. I need to like put some hinges and stuff on it. But inside, this is Verbena bonariensis, which I think maybe came out a little bit too soon. It's looking kind of small and like insignificant. Maybe could do with some separating too. But I have 2 batches. I have one batch that I have indoors that's growing a lot better. But we'll see. I think hopefully these ones will catch up. And then behind I have some sunflowers. There are 2 different kinds. And I'm seeing the sunburst on the left, which get pretty tall, and then these ones are teddy bear. And I see the first couple are just starting to emerge. Down here there's some Nepeta and some phlox. I can see the phlox is like getting ready to bloom. These are creeping phloxes. And then down here, these are the Dusty Millers that I grew from seed this year, and they have their like true Dusty Miller leaves, which I love. And then down here, these are just like babies. I only separated them yesterday, but it's woolly sunflowers, which are a native yellow flower that I just like love. It makes like a beautiful little carpet. They're like pale yellow, and then they have kind of silvery blue foliage, so the contrast is amazing. So this is the bulb lawn, and we started it last year. Our niece Johannika was out, so we had like a fun day just planting like, I don't know, it was a few hundred bulbs. So it starts off, the first ones to bloom are the dwarf irises. So there's two different kinds. They both sound really similar. I feel like it's like Catherine Hodgkins and then like Hodgkins Gold or something like that. So it's like a pale blue one and a pale yellow one. Then come the crocuses. Those ones are like oranges and like purples. Then come the daffodils, which are minnow, which are just like little ones with like multiple heads per stalk, as well as the baby's breath muscari, which is like pale blue. And it kind of smells, I don't know, Lewis thinks it smells really grapey. It does have kind of like almost a candy grape, like Oregon grape, or not Oregon, Concord grape type of smell. And then there's a few perennial tulips in here as well, which didn't do super well, but they did come back. So yeah, anyway, I feel like each year it gets better, and then each year I add more stuff, so it's gonna be like even better. But I just like love how it looks. It's just kind of like, I don't know, there's something a little bit enchanted about it. And just how it like changes over the season is pretty special. Even just like during the day, like right now, I don't know, the sun's pretty low, so it kind of glows a little bit differently. The hedge in the background is kind of nice too, because it like makes a nice backdrop. This is one of the apple trees. It's supposed to get a little bit chilly tonight, maybe a light frost. So I've just been like willing this apple tree to just hold on. And I think it worked because I see the buds here. I'll have to get a close-up shot because the lighting's not very good. But they're about to go, but they haven't yet. So that's great. And then over here is the hummingbird garden. And there's just like so many nice things emerging. These are all the Pacific bleeding hearts. So these are native bleeding hearts. And I just like love the color. And I love the foliage. And they work really well. That's Woodstock hyacinths behind them. And then in the middle is a rose. I don't remember the name. It's like not a wild rose, but the ones that grow kind of wild. But it also has like purple flowers and a really beautiful scent. And then here's like one of the little baskets that I did that has like succulents and bulbs, some pansies, a little juniper. And then this we call the Hawaii bed. It's the part of the hummingbird garden that just like gets the most like heat and stuff. I think both from the house, and it faces like east by southeast. So especially in the morning, it kind of starts off before everything else. Anyway, so things go over a little faster here. So you can see the fritillaries and stuff have kind of ended. So many birds around this morning. But the camellia is like going strong. This is one that I clipped recently. I did a video of it, but you can see like a little further in, the blooms are still looking pretty fantastic. I got like 100, I think, of these grape hyacinths, so I kind of put them everywhere. But I'll plant them in the garden because they do really well for us. They'll come back next year. And then I'll slowly pan to this side. The rhodos look like they're getting ready to go. And there's so many just different like perennials in here. The lupins, the irises are all getting ready as well. A ton of alliums. And then another little pot collection over here. I was really happy with how this one turned out. I think I did a video of this one too, just like the pale blues, yellows, the purples. I had some branches in the middle that I took out once the bulbs came up because I thought that they needed a little more room. As we come around this way, I'll give you a little sneak peek on some projects that we're working on. I think this is an Edgeworthia. I love the color, and I love the color up against the fence, and then that's a red flowering currant next to it. If you know what this is, feel free to let me know. It's really hard to identify on the apps. So on this side, we're working at creating kind of this like grass walkway. And then we claimed, or I claimed this whole part on the left from, it used to be lawn. And we're calling this one the anniversary bed. So yeah, we're setting it up so it'll still be kind of cohesive to the hummingbird garden behind it, but with, you know, slightly different things. And then on this side here, again, just working on planting, we took down some like really overgrown Leyland cypress hedge trees that were just like blocking all our light. And it created this whole like little like woodland space for us to plant in. So this was bare, like everything we've added except for this one slightly sad looking rhododendron, but I think it will bounce back. Part of the tree landed on it, so I don't think he was very happy about that. And then these are some of the smaller limbs from the trees that I just used for edging here. And then I'll walk you through. You can see the plum trees are just starting to bloom out, as are the cherry trees. I think especially the one on the right is getting pretty close to peak, but we gave these a really hard prune last summer just to like bring them down a little bit. So they look kind of funky now, but hopefully they'll look good eventually. And then now I'm in the veggie beds, the veggie gardens. So in the first one, we have like broccoli and cauliflower. And then there's a section in the middle where we sowed a bunch of carrots and nothing has really come up. And then we did like a border of onions around them because I read that that works, so great. And then in here we have a bunch of broad beans, which are like a bush bean with spinach interplanted. And we started the broad beans in the fall. I think in the fall. They poked their heads up and then didn't do much for winter, but now they've started growing, so that's awesome. So you can see how those are all interplanted. And then we did scarlet runners on the trellis behind. I think we might do something similar this year. And then in the next bed over, we have like the garlic, which is from like we planted in the fall. And then around it, there's a bunch of lettuce that we sowed. And then I also bought some like bok choy. And then in the foreground, it's all the rows of the Alaska peas, which are like snap peas, or you can have them as peas, or you can leave them on a little longer and then you can have them as like peas for stewing. And then this is the asparagus and strawberry bed. You can see some of the stalks have come up and they're just like, I don't know, raring to go. Anyway, it's only their second year, so we're not gonna start harvesting yet, but good to know and exciting things to come. And then here is the raspberry bed. And these are the like late bearing raspberries. So we cut them back this spring and all of these popped up. So I feel like in no time it's gonna be a little thicket in here. And then walking back up towards the house, you can see different paint samples. We have some ideas of painting the house. And then these are the new veggie beds. This one we were working on filling yesterday and it's almost there. The bottom layer that you can see is composted like wood chips that we mix with some of our greens and stuff. So it's like partially, maybe mostly composted. And then the top layer is the soil mix that we bought in. And the pathway that I've been working on, we're using some old concrete that we had around. It's coming together. Leveling it is kind of annoying, but I have a big sand pile, so basically any of the ones that are rocking a little bit, I'm gonna level with sand, but I'll have to find time to do that. And then this is the one that's all ready. So I'm really excited. I think both of these are gonna be tomatoes, basil, and friends this year. I ended up cutting this rose back really, really hard because we had to do some work here, like taking up the old concrete and stuff. But you can see like it's coming back with a vengeance. There's so much new growth on it. So I'm really excited about growing all the veggies and stuff for this year. On the right, this bed needs a little bit of work. I need to bring up the sides because the dogs keep charging through it and breaking off main stems of the blueberries. But anyway, these are blueberry bushes and they're very prolific. And then down here, we need a better name for this area. We generally call it the roundabout, only because like the driveway goes around it. And I guess Lewis is British, so on this side, you can see all the canes that I bent in. I used bamboo, which we actually cut 2 years ago. You shouldn't put it in, I think, within less time than that because it is capable of like growing again. And I basically made just like a little bit of a trellis protection thing for the peonies. These are all peonies that I kind of divided and transplanted last year. So they're pretty young. I'm hoping that they'll bloom actually. But I need to protect them from the dogs. So they don't love running into sticks. So I figured that that would work pretty well. And then this area here, I'll try and show some footage because it was completely different. Where I'm pointing now is like, was all overgrown with bamboo completely. We had to get an excavator in, and then now 2 years later, I still find and dig up little clumps. So yeah, completely unrecognizable. And we planted a bunch of these daffodils this year, which were supposed to be kind of like ivory with like a pink center, but they're kind of like lemon with an orange center. They're still really pretty, and as they age, they do get a little bit pinkier. There's another one of those peony protection cages here, more of the daffodils. There's also a bunch of alliums in here. And these tulips, I don't remember their name. They're not quite like the botanical kind, like where it's like just like a species, but I think they're like way less hybridized. In any case, they seem to be almost like a woodland tulip, and they do really well at coming back. I've planted them kind of like all throughout here, and they come back every year and just look like really cheerful. I have plans to mulch this whole bed, but I just haven't gotten to it yet. There's lots of horsetails here, which I don't really mind because the snakes seem to really like them. And we have like a lot of garter snakes in the garden. I think they might eat the frogs, maybe also like slugs and stuff. I'm not sure. Hopefully they eat like pests. But anyway, they seem to sunbathe on the rocks by the water, and then when you come past, they like run and hide under the horsetails. So I feel like they're kind of important. Here I have a couple different kinds of dahlias. So the plain white ones are the thalia ones, which are kind of, I guess, like a later one and have the worst scent on the planet. Okay, maybe not the worst scent on the planet, but they smell pretty awful. These are more peonies, and I've heard people say that they won't bloom in the first year when you move them. However, I moved these a year ago and they bloomed for me last summer. Each one had one stalk with a big white flower, and now I see multiple stalks, so I think they're pretty happy here. And here's an Ebb-Tide rose, which again has a beautiful smell and kind of like plum foliage. And down here I have more of those tulips. And then this was our weeping redbud tree that snapped off. The deer came before we had the fence and like scraped the trunk, which I think weakened it. And then in a storm, it just like broke off the top. So anyway, I've been training one of its new shoots upwards. And then eventually, once it gets to the height I want, I can stop training it and then it will just like bend over and start weeping again. These are the thalia daffodils. So really pretty, but don't get too close to smell. These are honesty, and they're not exactly the color that I wanted for here, but I planted them from seed from somewhere else. So I'm not sure how well they transfer, but I might try to transplant them, or I'll just collect more seed and then put them somewhere else that I like them. And here is the ring that I had the dahlias in last year, if you watched that video. And then looking back on that side, where you see that little like obelisk, I have a clematis growing up it. And then yeah, just like a ton of bulbs and like little evergreens and stuff. And this area just like, I don't know, everything that we do to it makes it look good. It's just like something about the lighting or something, it just is like really pleasant to walk through. This was where our big beautiful catalpa tree was, but we got like a really unexpected snowfall, and it was like warm, so it was like a wet snow in October, which for us is like unseasonably early, and it just completely tipped over. So I know that they regenerate pretty well, so we cut it back hard. Like we basically cut the tree down, and my hope was that that would give the roots time to reestablish, because basically this whole side, they were completely torn off. So if they reestablish and then it can put up some new growth, we can slowly train it to be pretty again. And then there is a fish that lives in here that we've only ever seen, I think, 3 times, and we hadn't seen it in at least a year, and then it materialized, and it's not that deep. So I think it's just like really good at hiding. Anyway, I don't see it now. We have this bridge that we've been working on. So some of the wood that or some of the dead trees that we cut down, there was one that had this like big bend in the stem, and we were like, oh, that would make an amazing bridge. So anyway, that's what we're doing. So I had this old, like, I think it's a 6x6, I don't know, beam. So we use that kind of as like a brace for the middle, and then I cut out something to make like a big step. So anyway, it's a work in progress, but I'm excited about how it looks already. And then we'll angle it to go up towards that little path. There's like a crab apple right there, and then we'll go like around the crab apple and up. I wanted to show you our compost. So we have like a whole thing. This is our current pile. So this is where we're adding stuff, and we put like old soil and stuff. On the left here is the one that we're using. So this is what we used for kind of the base of the the new veggie beds. So it's not completely broken down yet, but it's like getting there. But this stuff is like amazing for retaining moisture too. And then we like to do hot compost. So if you get the balance of the like carbon to nitrogen ratio, then it starts to like heat up and it composts a lot faster. So we just started cutting the lawn again, and we're adding the lawn cuttings to the top, which is like very nitrogen rich, which should trigger them to start to heat up again. I feel like we buried the thermometer, but there's normally a thermometer here too. And then I want to give you just a quick tour of what's going on in the greenhouse. So still looking very full, but I have a bunch of hardy perennials in here that I'm planning to take out pretty soon. Like right in front, these are all Rudbeckia. These are some of the ones that I actually potted up on video recently. There's some hostas in the back, a ton of seedlings. Those are like red lupins. This one's kind of like a mix. And then back here, there's like Cat's lavender blue stock. There's some more of the Dusty Miller. These are some like salads, spinach and lettuce. These are ready to go out as soon as I have time. There's like lupins and kale. The campanula, I don't know, the color doesn't look great, but it's alive. So hopefully it'll just like keep living. More lupins. And then this is from the opposite direction. So you can see all the like little hostas are poking up. I also have some cuttings in here. So those like, these are plum yews. And those cuttings are 2 years old. And I actually checked the roots on one of them pretty recently. And it was, it had like one root that was maybe like 5 inches long. So anyway, good to know that it's alive. And then more seedlings on that side. There's some Echinacea purpurea. There's like 3 trays of cosmos. Each have a couple that have popped up, but I need the rest to kind of get going too. They're worrying me a little bit. More sweet peas. We love our sweet peas. So that's the greenhouse. And then I'll take you for one last stop. This is a bed, oops. It's a bed I built recently. We're actually gonna move it. I think we're gonna turn that into our herb bed. And then down here, this is son of a ditch that we recently planted with a bunch of like native plants, and it seems to be doing pretty well. There's not like a whole lot to show, but I did buy 2 more plants to add here that I'm like pretty excited about. So one is this creeping dogwood, and that I'm hoping kind of just like takes over that whole side of the bank. And then I had sowed a bunch of our native red columbine seeds, but I also wanted some of the instant gratification, so I picked one of these guys up, and he had 2 flower stalks that are kind of just about to start to open. So exciting times. But all the bleeding hearts and stuff that I just like put in here, these ones didn't have roots, just like a piece of tuber, but they're all doing really well. They're all establishing. The skunk cabbage looks pretty good. The trilliums have just like really, I don't know, gotten kind of huge. I didn't plant these, but I'm really hoping that they continue to spread, and I think they will, because I don't know, these leaves are pretty enormous. There's a few more through there too. Well, thanks for coming along on this morning's tour. There's always like so much to show, and I like never know where to look first. So anyway, I tried to show you what I'm most excited about right now, basically. Yeah, I'm hoping to show a lot more as like things kind of start to materialize. It's awesome having, I don't know, these like plans in my mind, and then I'll like start to like propagate things for them or grow things from seed, and then all of a sudden I'm like planting all those things out, and then, you know, a few months later things are looking like completely different. So there's something, I don't know, just like amazing about being part of that whole thing happening. And I love to show it off too. So I'll keep you posted when there's more stuff to show, and I'll likely do a tour again kind of the end of the month, because there were so many like the alliums and things like that that are just like, I don't know, a few weeks away from blooming. Some of the apple trees just like about to explode in blooms too. So it's a pretty exciting time of year. So thanks for coming along on today's tour, and I'll catch you next time.